So I don't know if it's going to end up going out before or after this video, but I just got done filming a video about strength endurance or work capacity. In that video, I demonstrated a ton of med ball slams. And as I was doing it, I thought, you know what, I absolutely love this exercise, I should definitely make a feature video about them. Med ball slams are fun, they're extremely safe, and they can build explosiveness, agility, athleticism, they burn fat, they're just fantastic all-round moves, so I really think everyone should incorporate them into their training. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to do them correctly, why you should be doing them, and at the end we're going to look at some variations to make things a little bit more interesting. And yes, to answer your question, it is really cold, but I can hardly recommend cold exposure to you guys and then not train with my top off because it's a little bit chilly. So the med ball slam might look pretty simple, and in fact it is. That's actually one of the big draws of this exercise. It's so simple in fact that it probably dates back as one of the oldest and most ancient forms of exercise. Apparently there is evidence of, primitive man slamming things against the ground to get into shape, but the med ball slam as we know it actually dates back to Hippocrates, who apparently would stuff animal hides and get his patients to slam them on the ground in order to improve their general health. It's really hard to get this exercise wrong. It's a full body compound explosive movement, and yet there's very minimal impact on the joints, which is just an incredibly hard combination to find. There's minimal loading, and in general it's really hard to hurt yourself with this exercise, and it's something you can pick up and do, and even if you're not using the technique perfectly correctly, you're not going to cause any harm, and this makes it perfect for training youngsters, for people who are new to the gym, but it also has a ton of benefits for those that are a little bit more experienced, as we're going to see. But what that apparent simplicity is hiding is actually a hip hinge movement and a form of triple extension, but in reverse. It's like a reverse explosive vertical jump, because what you're doing is instead of extending at the ankles and the knees and the hips all at once to thrust yourself upwards, you're instead flexing at them in order to slam the ball back downwards. This can train you to get down into that lower position much more quickly and explosively, which is fantastic if you want to increase your vertical jump, because when you jump, you first perform something called a countermovement. You drop down to a low position and then leap up. The faster and more explosively you get into that counter movement, the higher your jump is going to be. So if you can explosively move down, you're going to be much more explosive leaping up. At the same time, if you perform a lot of snatches, cleans, deadlifts, then you also need to be training this reverse movement. You're training all of the antagonist muscles that you use in those lifting exercises that involve hinging at the hips. This is going to help prevent injury and to strengthen you those positions, because your antagonist muscles provide a stability role in all of those exercises, and they help to decelerate you through the movement. It's going to prevent imbalances, and it's something that many people are simply missing in their training. So it's a fantastic exercise for improving athleticism, speed and explosiveness. And this is a fantastic metabolic finisher, a great example of resistance cardio. Because it's so safe, there's no impact, and you're not lifting a huge amount of weight, you're safe to do this for high repetitions, explosively, quickly, and to really get the heart rate pumping. And if you've just performed a workout for your lats in particular, for your core, then finishing with this is a great way to get in that work capacity, to train your aerobic system. So if you want to get your cardio in, this is a great way to do that, not only because it pairs really nicely with resistance training, but also because it's a whole lot of fun. And that's another great thing about the med ball slam, is that it's actually genuinely enjoyable. It's really cathartic slamming something against the ground. And if you're someone who doesn't enjoy going for long runs, if you find that boring, then this is the kind of cardio, the kind of resistance cardio that you might actually be able to convince yourself to do. Unless you think that this looks like you're not working very hard or it's not very heavy, try and do maybe a few minutes of this at the end of your workout. Go for 10 minutes and see how you feel the next day. I promise you're going to feel this in all the working muscles. So what are those muscles? Well, actually this is a surprisingly big lat movement, and if you perform a lot of med ball slams like this, then the next day you're going to feel it in the lats in particular, a little bit in the shoulders as well, a little bit in the core, but really we shouldn't be crunching, so you're going to feel it more in the hip flexors, which is another reason this translates really nicely to athletic performance, because it's going to help you to bring those legs up nice and quickly, nice and explosively. Or you can do a little bit of a squat to pick the ball up again, which means you get a bonus air squat in there. Which of these you do is going to depend somewhat on which type of medicine ball you get. You can get ones that are designed to bounce and ones that are designed not to bounce. If you only get one, I recommend the bouncing kind, because they're much more convenient for a bunch of other movements too, like if you're bouncing it against a wall or a tree. So how do you perform the medicine ball slam? Well, I described it as a hip hinge movement, and this should give you a bit of a clue. This isn't a movement where you're going to be really engaging the abs by crunching at the core. You're not going to be flexing and extending the spine all that much, although if you get a little bit of spinal extension at the top and a little bit of flexion at the bottom, it really isn't the end of the world. So yeah, pick up your med ball, raise it above your head, slam down. And as you can see, I'm not crunching my core, I'm keeping my back relatively flat. And I'm hinging at my hips. You want to bring it up over your head. You don't need to swing your arms back behind your head, just bring it straight up above, and then you're going to slam it down as powerfully and forcefully as you can. And this is something else to think about. Really focus on generating force. If you're just going through the motions here, then you're not going to get the full benefits. One of the most common questions I get on Instagram when I show med ball slams is, what weight of balls should you be using? And this is going to depend partly on your goals, but what I will say is go lighter than you think. Mine is only 6 kilograms. This is a rare exercise where adding more weight doesn't necessarily make for a better or more difficult exercise, because here the angle of resistance is actually going in the opposite direction. So the heavier the ball, the easier time you're going to have slamming it down. It'll be harder to get it to bounce, but it's only going to make lifting it slightly harder, which is interesting in itself. But for slamming it down, lighter actually works just as well, because I mean gravity is on your side here. That added weight is just to add a little bit of drag so that you can really put in some effort and so it doesn't bounce away all over the place, so that you slow the movement down slightly, but you don't need to pile on loads of weight to get a decent workout here. And if you're doing this for high rep ranges, then yes, 6 kilograms is absolutely fine. 10 kilograms. Now, one of the coolest variations that I really love with a medicine ball is the power throw. And all you're going to do here is you're going to perform the slam but in reverse. And what that means is you're going to lob it as far as you can behind you while still exploding and getting in that triple extension. So this time you really are effectively training the exact same muscles you would do for a vertical jump. This is the perfect counterbalance to doing lots of slams, and in some ways it's better than using a bar to train these muscles because there's no risk of injuring yourself. You can't hit yourself. I can not think about it. I don't need to think about a triple pull, you know, I can just launch it up in the air, give as much power as I can, and go hell for leather. The only downside of this exercise is that you then have to go and retrieve the ball, which means you can't do it easily for a large number of repetitions. But if you throw it, retrieve it, throw it, retrieve it, you can get a good workout in. Do though try not to crush someone's dog. People do not like that. Another fantastic variation you've seen me doing a lot is the rotational slam. And here you're going to slam against a wall or something and you're just swinging your body and hurling the med ball into the wall. It should bounce off, you catch it and you throw it back again. Once again, get a little bit of hand-eye coordination training there. Make sure that your wall is able to withstand repeatedly throwing a ball at it. You don't want to form little cracks like some people might do. If you do this against a tree, you really get that hand-eye coordination element because you just don't know how it's going to bounce off the tree. It looks something like this. But the idea behind this is that you're training rotational strength. You're training movement in the transverse plane, which I just made a whole video about with Grant. You should check it out if you want to learn more about this. But it's basically a whole missing plane of movement for many of us who simply don't train. Rotation is extremely important when you're throwing a punch, when you're grappling, when you're pulling or pushing something. Even when you're walking and running, you need to rotate. So the fact that we often don't rotate in the gym is frankly tragic. And when you use a rotational throw, you'll be training somewhat the serape effect, which is this combination of muscles that make a kind of Mexican serape pattern across your body, which is kind of like a sling on either side, the serratus, the obliques, and this allows you to twist and exert maximum force. This is the secret to how baseball players can pitch a ball at 100 miles an hour and how martial artists are able to punch with the same kind of force as a car hitting you. So this is how you can exert maximum force from your body. You of course should be training it. This is once again a fantastic low impact way to train that, even at a higher rep range. And I talk in my video on strength endurance about how many endurance adaptations occur locally in specific muscles. You increase blood flow to the muscle, you increase mitochondria in that muscle, you increase your ability to recruit motor units in that muscle. So if you want to get more endurance at an activity, it's not just enough to run as well as doing that activity. You need to do something resembling that activity for a high repetition in a way that's going to test your energy systems. So if you're a martial artist and you want to be able to go for longer in the ring without gassing out, then performing something like this for high rep ranges is a great way to train yourself to be more endurant in those movement patterns. Another similar variation is the shot put throw, where of course you're just going to throw from the shoulder. Same rotational benefits, involving the shoulder a little bit more, different way of generating power. You can also do a slightly more rotational version of the ground slam. So that's the med ball slam. I hope you found this video useful and interesting, guys. If you did, then please leave a like and share it around. That helps me out so much and I massively appreciate your support. Let me know in the comments down below if this is a movement you guys use or if it's something you're going to use in the future, and let me know if there are other exercises like this that you'd like me to feature in a future video. I genuinely believe that nearly every exercise, nearly every movement has something to offer. Of course I do have my favourites though, and this is one of them. If you like training this way to improve not only your strength and your appearance, but also your mobility, your endurance, your reflexes, even your cognitive ability, then you might enjoy my ebook and training program, Super Functional Training. There's a link to that in the description down below, and there's a discount on right now. You might also enjoy my print book, Functional Training and Beyond, which is a guide and introduction to the idea of functional training and super functional training for the athlete and for the average Joe. Either way, thank you so much for watching this one, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.